efforts for holding the international conference on Syria. The army continues to pursue terrorists, inflicting on them huge losses. Erdogan's forces storm into Taksim Square, assaulting protesters with sticks and poisonous gas. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Irado Grigorian from the News Center in Damascus. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed that the West's attempts to arm the Syrian opposition hinder the efforts seeking to hold the upcoming international conference on Syria in Geneva. Russian RIA Novosti news agency quoted Lavrov as saying in a press conference following talks with his Brazilian counterpart, Antonio Patriota, that to coordinate with opposition figures and work on arming them to retake some areas is an act that goes against holding the conference. He stressed Russia's insistence on inviting Syria's neighbors and Iran to attend the international conference. Lavrov pointed out that his country's proposal to send Russian troops to replace the Austrian forces operating within the UNDOF in the occupied Golan stems from its keenness on achieving stability in the Middle East. India has reiterated support for a peaceful solution to the crisis in Syria and readiness to contribute to such a step in case it is invited to take part in the international conference due to be held in Geneva. A top-ranking Indian Foreign Ministry official said his country's stand has been clear since the beginning of the crisis, calling for rejecting foreign intervention, halting violence and letting the Syrian people decide their own future. He referred to the good relations and the economic and trade cooperation between Syria and India. The Indian official voiced his country's deep concern over the activities of the armed terrorist groups in Syria and the Turkish, Qatari, Saudi support offered to those groups, as well as over the repercussions of the decision to lift the embargo imposed on selling weapons to the Syrian opposition. He warned that such a measure would have its grave impact on security and stability in the region. An official source has dismissed as untrue certain fabricated reports circulated in some news media about parts of Mennegh military airport coming under the control of the armed terrorist groups. In a statement to Sana, the source said such information is completely false and groundless and comes within the framework of the media assault practiced against Syria to raise the declining morale of the mercenary terrorists who have sustained big losses by the army over the past few days. The source pointed out that an army unit intercepted an attempt by terrorists from Jabhat al-Nusra to infiltrate in the airport from neighboring areas, killing and injuring a large number of them. Several armed men were also killed or wounded by another army unit in Al-Alqamiyya village and the agricultural research center near the airport and destroy their criminal tools. A number of terrorists were also eliminated as they were getting ready to attack the airport, and 3 arms warehouses and a mortar gun were destroyed in Ain Dakna village, 3 kilometers east of the airport. Army units killed the leaders of 4 terrorist groups and destroyed their heavy machine guns. In Harasta, the army clashed with terrorists near Al-Baladiya roundabout and the water company, killing dozens of terrorists. Among them was Hani Najjar, the leader of the terrorist group Ahbabullah Battalion. The army continued pursuing the terrorists who were stationing along Damascus Homs Highway and shooting at the passers using their sniper rifles. The army killed 3 wanted terrorists, including Khalid al-Najjar, Khalid Khamis and Ahmed al-Gharib. The army destroyed heavy military equipment west of Ash-Shifoniya and destroyed a terrorist gathering near Hajera. In Homs countryside, our army troops eliminated terrorist gatherings near the cultural center in Talbiseh and the road linking Talbiseh with Za'faraniya north of Homs. In response to the inhabitants' appeals, the Syrian Arab army entered Al-Khalidiyya in Homs's northern suburbs to clear it of terrorists and restore security to the village. The terrorists who infiltrated into Al-Khalidiyya from Al-Rastan, Al-Dar al-Kabira and Al-Ghanto burned agricultural crops, planted explosive devices and destroyed houses as the army was entering the village. In Dar'a suburbs, the army restored security and stability to Al-Mleha Al-Ghirbiya village after eliminating terrorists and confiscating their weapons. Security has also been restored to Khirbet Ghazale after it has been cleared by the army of the terrorist groups who had carried out acts of killing and destroyed private and public properties. Large quantities of Israeli-made weapons and ammunition were confiscated. The terrorists had turned the houses of the inhabitants into hideouts and set up barriers on streets from which they attacked neighboring military units. Welcome back. Turkish police launched tear gas towards thousands of demonstrators in Taksim Square yesterday night as part of cracking down on the peaceful protesters who called for the resignation of Erdogan's government. In response to Erdogan's announcement that he was willing to meet the protest leaders, a member of the Platform of Solidarity with Taksim said that there was no room for dialogue while violence continued. Erdogan's violent crackdown on the peaceful protests was faced with international condemnation. In the capital Ankara, Turkish police renewed their repression of the protesters using tear gas and water cannons. Thousands of demonstrators returned yesterday to Taksim Square in Istanbul after the withdrawal of the police forces who had earlier stormed into the square. Finally, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei called for a wide participation in the presidential elections next Friday. Khamenei said that the strong participation in the elections will lead to despair in the heart of the enemies and hence to decrease their pressure, pointing out that the election process is good up till now. For his part, Interior Security Chief Ismail Ahmadi said that all potentials were mobilized to provide full security for the upcoming elections, in which about 50 million voters will take part to choose a new president. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Vani Ganjian after a short break.